Let's go ahead and start recording. All right. Hopefully everyone's here to talk xAPI video. It looks like that's the case. My name is Craig Wiggins, and we just have a couple people right now, Humera, Patrick, and Pankaj. Guys, like I said, I've elevated Pankaj to be an organizer, so I'm going to go ahead and let him handle those duties in terms of changing presenters, etc., and ending the meeting if I'm not back in time. So that's it. Please carry on.
All right, thanks.
No problem.
Okay, so I think, is it Humera? Have you been following our discussion so far? We can just, I guess, continue our discussion starting at the top here.
Hello, how are you?
Hi, welcome to the meeting. How are you today?
Thank you so much. In fact, I am assisting Pankaj to make documentation of this meeting.
Oh, I see. Okay, perfect. So you're pretty much already familiar then. So instead of starting over, I guess, since we don't really have anyone else joining us today, why don't we just continue on? So what I was, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Humera is part of our organization, Next Software Solutions. So
okay.
I got her to help me. Yeah, so regarding use cases, actually, Medbiquitous guys have a lot of different kind of things to deal with, and they were able to find so many use cases. We tried to do it with video COP, but it seemed like we have only one thing to deal with, that is the videos. So
right.
I could not think of ways to break down into multiple use cases. Actually, each of these use cases that we have now are just different parts of videos to deal with. It was a little complicated for me to be able to use their template for our use. So if you have ideas, we could try them for the use cases we have.
And so, okay, so kind of like I was saying before, kind of the approach that we took on some of them, some of the other groups that I was on, we would just pick one of the use cases. Doesn't matter which one. I mean, I'm not terribly attached to any of them. And then we would use this template form here, the one that I'm displaying. Fill this one. We would go through, fill this one out, and then we would create a mock-up. So let me just show you what we've done over here, real quick. This is the Internet of Things community right here. And this is just lagging a little bit, so just give it a moment. But one of the people on that team went through here. That's what I had to do, and actually created this this mock-up, and she just posted it here. She just posted this this yesterday, and so this kind of what we're doing here is we're just creating a checklist, and so it's going to use these near fields tags. And as you get close to the field tag, this item on the left here would get checked off, and then there'll be a check mark right here. So, for example, if you're a new hire employee, you would get this list of different items that you have to do and places to go, and then you would use your device to check off all the items that are on your list here. And so this is kind of just our first attempt at a mock-up as to what it would actually look like. And then you can see over on the right-hand side the different triggers as well. And so this is kind of in context. This was developed from the template that we filled out. And so I would suggest maybe would it be possible for us to do something similar, right? And then that way we can just kind of keep the development rolling. And I know maybe because it's video, it's kind of kind of a generic thing, but I think when you put a really specific, when you start putting specific things down on paper, it just helps kind of move things along, and you build one thing on top of another.
Looks like Adam joined us. Hi Adam, how are you?
Hi there, well, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yep. Patrick suggested that we should use a template to build use cases and have some mockups as well. So we are discussing if we can do it with our video community of practice.
Yeah, hi Adam. I don't know, would you tell us a little bit about yourself too? Are you familiar with the video COP or?
I'm not really a video person. How did I get here? In some ways it was a little bit of an accident. I'm working on a project called the Learning Analytics Community Exchange, and I lead a web package there on interoperability and data sharing. And I was really looking around to identify areas that were potentially promising for learning analytics. Seemed quite widespread, but maybe didn't have such well-developed specifications, but which maybe we could do. So I wrote a little study looking at the various events that different video players provide that could be captured, and did a little bit of thinking about finding out, for example, what kind of learning analytics people had already done and published around using video. And that's kind of how I got here, really.
Gotcha. Cool. I think from what, just some background from what I've seen is that there's very little around the analytics piece specifically for video. There's some work that's been done, just part of the standard xAPI standard and the statements within that, but nothing specifically targeting video that I know, that I'm aware of anyway.
Yeah, I was surprised how little there was. I think there was a workshop, I forget where it was now, looking at video analytics. It seems there's a lot of potential both from the producer's side to understand how the video they produce is being used, also from the teacher's side to understand where the difficulty were, but also to examine flows of interaction between, say, answering quiz questions and going back to video and looking at video again. So there's a whole range of things in terms of cross-analysis there with different learning activities, looking at patterns in relation to, even when people use different kinds of learning resources in relation to assessment opportunities. So there just used to be an awful lot, and then in higher education we have a lot of lecture capture as well. Can we understand better how students are using the lecture capture? So it seems like there's an awful lot of potential, but compared to that potential, surprisingly little existing well-documented work actually says, here we've done something, here's why we were doing it, here the object, and really production of teaching and of learning.
Okay, great. That kind of helps give a good framework. In fact, one of the areas of this document I think we were looking at was the reports and analytics portion. Sounds like you're very knowledgeable about that. Maybe we could go through here and identify some additional items.
Yeah, I'll share the link if you don't have.
Okay.
This is the link for the document.
I'm just trying to open it now. Okay, come on.
Yeah, that was one of the gaps that we had in this document, was the reports and analytics. I know from my own perspective, I've been focused on kind of generating the statements and creating these endpoints, and I've not looked at analytics at all, hardly for this.
I'm having trouble. I'm on a either my machine is or my bandwidth is limited at the moment, so things are taking their time.
No worries. I think I just saw you pop in. It looks like you're slowly joining there.
Yeah, it's loading really slow. I'm also working inside a Windows 7 virtual machine on an Ubuntu box.
Oh.
Making life difficult.
Yeah, good thing you made it easy for yourself to get in there today.
Right, so I go to a meeting if I use it from my Ubuntu machine. I have to call in over Skype or a phone, whereas if I'm on a Windows machine, I can use the audio.
That's what it was. That's what it was.
I'll go to meeting.
Yeah. You were I remember we were on another call. You were having trouble with that as well.
Yeah, I do my fault there. Maybe this patch is from Microsoft. So.
What about Wine? Have you tried running Wine with it? I mean, the new version of Wine is really good.
I used to run Wine. I actually generally have a pretty good time using VirtualBox.
Okay.
I'm pretty impressed by it actually, but it does load the CPU. Right, I'm in now.
If you like Ubuntu, try out Mint as well. It's all the same goodness of Ubuntu, but a little more polish on the desktop. It's very nice.
Okay, I'm in the dock now.
All right, perfect. Yeah, if you go down to what page am I on?
Yeah, I can see you, Patrick Selby.
Okay.
Okay, so you'd like me to try and start updating this, would you?
Yeah, if you would just maybe if we could review those ones that you just mentioned when you were kind of telling us about that, we could jot those down here and just kind of add that as good as additional information. That way we don't have a gap in the document here. And if you'd like me to type, or if you would like to type, either way. And I think Pancake is in there as well. I see him in there.
Okay,
so.
I'm reason why I'm up in an hour, so I'm just trying to think about getting my ideas straight before I start writing.
To write there, just
okay. Can I just offline? I don't want to hold the call up while I think, because I know just arriving off the train and my brain's a bit unclear.
No worries. Let's just review those items that you were just telling us about. You were, and I don't remember specifically what you said now, but you were talking about how few analytics areas there would be. So like some of the, and just to review a little bit, some of the use cases that we've kind of kicked around before as well is like, how many people have gotten to the end of the video, or how many people started it and then perhaps bookmarked it. And so I'm just tossing these out as possible reports that someone would want to see. One of the things that I would personally be interested in, and so as part of, so just kind of bear with me, so as part of a corporate rollout, we would probably roll xAPI out sort of in 2 stages. We would roll it out using kind of like a small booklet, bookmarklet tool, where the student could bookmark the item that they're viewing themselves. And then later on, once we've started integrating with some of the sites like SharePoint or Kaltura or Alfresco, those kind of tools, we could do automatic reporting. But I would think, in the context of video, I would be interested in seeing, people who actually manually bookmarked items. It kind of would tell me that the content that they're viewing is very important to them, and it may be something that they would want to hold on to as part of their record, as sort of like a record that they would want to review themselves. And I guess knowing sort of at what minute or whatever into the video that bookmarking happens might be valuable as well. Kind of knows like, all right, well, there's the tipping point where this video gets so good that someone realizes, well, let me save it.
Yeah, there are some suggestions for comments as well, comments, notes.
Oh yeah, comments is sort of the same thing, right? It's a sort of source of validation, social proof that it's valuable.
Annotations.
I'm looking in my YouTube analytics here, and they have a couple of different buckets. They have something called performance, and then engagement, top 10 videos.
If we can review the use cases and improve on them, we could find better ideas for reports, as well as the exact things we need to track. So I guess this events and scenarios that we need to track, as well as the reports and analytics that we need to build would revolve around the use cases that we built, or use cases that we are planning to handle using this community of practice. So
yeah, at this point,
to review the and then it might be better to review the use cases that we have currently, and maybe even find ways to mock up those, like you said, and improve the list. Maybe add more use cases if we have missed some.
Yeah, I'm kind of seeing this as two different use cases at the moment. So one is sort of the student side, and then the other one is going to be the, well, really, I guess it would be three, right? So you got an administration side, and then also then the reporting and analytics kind of side as well.
We already have a list for use cases currently. If you go above this reporting, above this reporting page, we have some use cases that we have already.
Before we head up, can you explain a little bit the patterns of viewing in real time? I'm just trying to picture that in my head.
Okay, so if we have someone answering a quiz, and then at the same time they were able to be viewing parts of a video, it would be the the kind of, you would end up with a set of statements that would kind of interleave from essentially two activities from one logical point of view, one watching the video, one answering the questions, but they were interleave. So if you look at the path through those from a time perspective, there would be kind of a cross-activity pattern. That's what I mean by that. It's not expressed very well. That's the trouble with trying to write quickly.
No, I understand now. So like the timestamp as to what the context is in the video when they answer a certain question. So it's like a trigger.
Yeah.
You know, when do they understand? When does the moment of understanding happen, and when can they synthesize that enough to report on that? Okay. Cool. Well, let's.
I'll reword it.
No, it was fine. I was trying to think of how that would look. See, so we'll head back up to the other use cases that we have currently, and then I think it would be good if we could maybe just start taking a crack at that template once we identify which one we maybe like the most. So here's the different use cases here. So let's see here, basic tracking of individual video interactions for learner activity or inactivity awareness. So if there's a common location where someone skips the video and skips ahead, perhaps. There's some really boring parts maybe to it, and they want to keep going.
Yeah. Or maybe they found the answer they were searching for.
Yeah, maybe they were just going there for a little training nugget, right? They just wanted just a specific piece of information that they wanted to get out of there.
Yep.
And I do remember that, and if a little bit further up, I think what we had talked about here somewhere. Yeah, here's under the scenarios that we would track, whether or not it was completed or not completed. But then it was like, it opened up a big can of worms, because it's like, how do you define that really, Well, let's ignore that. Let's just ignore that for now. So I think completed would not be a good example to tackle at this point. So yeah, finding where they skipped it would be good. Let's see, what else do we have here? Using results for individual user interactions to improve quality of video. So Pancake, can you explain that one sort of? What would be?
Kind of a general statement. It is kind of a general statement using results for individual user interactions. So I didn't write it, but based on what I understand, it is understanding how users are using the video.
Oh, okay.
And interacting it with it, like pausing or playing or skipping or whatever they are doing with the video, and using that information to improve the quality of video. Like if people are skipping a particular part of video, it might be because they don't like it, or it is too boring, or there might be some reason behind it, and to be able to find and improve the quality of video. So it could be a kind of use case where you'd want to be able to find information about the quality of video, or to be able to find the quality of video to be able to improve on it. So it could be basic interactions, start, play, pause, or whatever is there in a video.
So I think that's a good one too. I would just add to that one maybe other things, that other interactions. So like maybe a comment, if a comment was made during the video itself. and then you could use that kind of information to improve the video after the fact. One other scenario it makes me think of, when I was in school, a lot of times you would watch these really crappy videos with low quality, and it was so hard to read, you know, and so there was a lot of complaints a lot of times, just, you know, if the video quality was just a little bit better, it'd be easier to watch it, you know, get more out of it.
So yeah, that is mentioned in this third use case.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay. I see that here now. Annotations. Okay. Let's see. Number 4 here. Correlate individual test scores with number of times or amount of video that was accessed. Okay. I think that's similar to what we were talking down further down in the reporting section. Provide video feedback in an assessment. Point learner to video if you didn't watch it completely. I just wanted to throw one thing out too. Just it made me think of kind of the way YouTube does it, where if you watch a video, it'll show you other kind of related or suggested videos. I don't think we have a use case for that, do we? Or should we?
We currently don't have.
You know, it'd be kind of cool, and I'm just throwing this out there just for sake of discussion. So if you
Content, I don't know if it falls in.
I'm just wondering. I guess it would probably be an analytics thing anyway, right? So like if you watched a video, maybe the related videos section would look to see, all right, you watched this video. Other people that watched this video also watched these other videos. But that would be kind of a, I don't know, a widget or something. So I guess let's not worry about that here in this scenario. Let me see here. What's the last one? Provide video feedback. We said video cued assessment. If the user receives a particular point in the video, then point them to an appropriate test for understanding. You know, one thing that's really interesting about use case number 9 here. If you do. You could, so there's 2 things that you could do in YouTube. You can do annotation, and then you can also do closed captioning. And what they started doing with closed captioning, if they can, is they're using the voice recognition to match the place in the video with the closed captioning. So like if you read the closed captioning, it'll actually highlight the word that the person is actually speaking in there. And so that was really interesting. I don't know how that would fit here, but it seemed like it was a really powerful tool. Like,
yeah.
Well, and so what made me think about it, I guess, is that as you get to that section of the movie, you could show a quiz question.
Yeah, but that would be part of whatever video software is doing.
Right. Right.
Do you see
Yeah.
a way to get any information to allow this out?
Yeah, and how would you use I don't know how you would use the xAPI statements to interact either, so that might not be a good one. So
Video cued assessment is something like if you're teaching maths and if you just taught addition, you could give a question for addition like 2 + 2 and ask what is the answer. So it would be like immediately testing the user if he's understanding the lesson and if he's attentive. Uh, it is it is like connecting video with an assessment immediately after a point in the video.
And what would you say that these things, would you track like their score or whatever, or would it just be kind of a knowledge check where they're just being assessed to, you know, see if they're paying attention to it, but you wouldn't track it? Or
if you have an assessment, you would always want to track it. So I think it would use standard statements for the assessment built by other COPs. Maybe from you could use the CMI interaction related statements like true, false, and other statements that is part of the xAPI spec as well. So these could be standard statements which come out of the assessment. If you have a true, false question, you would have a statement that that is for true, false. We would not need to do any extra work for that. But yeah, we would need to ensure that such assessments can be done.
It sounds really cool. It makes me think of, I saw this one example, and I don't remember where I saw it. I think IBM had created this player, and so it was just a regular video player, and they, what did they do? So as you watched it, you would get to different places in the video, and then depending on when a person would comment on the video, they would show that comment as kind of an annotation. I think it was just as an annotation on the video itself, but it was pretty neat. If you get like a whole bunch of comments on there, it'll probably start getting kind of annoying because they'll kind of overlap each other or whatever.
Right.
But using kind of that same idea, but doing it more of a kind of as an assessment kind of tool, that sounds like a really neat use case to me. It's kind of cool.
And related to this use case number 5, and assessments would be for checking if the user learned the lesson, and in turn it would also test if the lesson was good enough. So if people are not if more users are not able to answer correctly, that means there is some gap in the video or the quality of the video is not good, and it would solve the second use case that we have, improving quality of video.
To me, it makes me think that there's two pieces. It's a kind of a twofer, right? So we want to know if they understood it. We also need to know if the question was written correctly. If everyone gets it wrong, then it might tell us something about the question, but it might also tell us something about the content. It's not very clear.
Yeah, and it might tell about the user as well, if the user is, if the student is attentive, or if the student is good enough to grab the information.
Cool. I mean, I think it sounds very interesting. It's very, in the environment that I'm from, which is sort of the corporate training environment, I mean, that would be a valuable tool. We do tons of assessments as well as certifications and stuff. So we've done just a very, very small smidgen of video testing before, but it's not nearly this sophisticated. It's really just, you know, watch this video that's a minute long and then answer these following 10 questions. So that's as advanced as we've gotten.
Yeah, so this would be something we would want to be able to handle in a standard way. It might not mean that we'll build a tool that will do this, though it is technically possible, so it is not something technically very complicated, but as part of this, we would want to ensure that such scenarios can be handled in a standard way. So the verbs being used for these are listed in our vocabulary, and the sequence of statements or whatever standard we create needs to be followed by people who have assessments in their video.
I did go to a MOOC one time for kind of, it was a big data MOOC, and they had some videos that did something similar to this, where they would ask you questions during the video, and then it would just pause until you answered the question. But I think they were knowledge checks. I don't believe that they were scored in any kind of way, and I don't believe they were tracked in any kind of way either.
Yeah, so it would depend on the author of the content. It would depend on the tool they are using. But as a part of our community of practice, we are not going to build a tool or authoring tool or something like that. We are trying to be able to handle those situations and have a standard way to track the information sent by those tools.
I've used a couple different tools for that does things like that, but they're usually Flash-based. Are you familiar with any tools? I'm just thinking if we went down this route and we were creating some kind of mock-up or something, do you have access to any tools or know of any tools that would be able to create content like this and then potentially even be able to hook into it and track it somehow?
I'm not aware of exactly. I'm not into authoring tools, but probably Captivate and Articulate should be able to do something similar. But I cannot assure because I don't use authoring tools. I'm towards the backend side, so
Right.
I haven't used these.
Well, because it would be the added challenge of adding the kind of the hooks and the and then trying to track that particular statement. And I'm sure it's part of the object itself. Some kind of action script or something that's embedded within that. You can expose that and then report that back out as a xAPI statement.
Technically, it is possible with YouTube as well. You can use JavaScript and you can check what is the time where it is playing, and as soon as it reaches a particular time, you can pause the video and pop up a box where you can ask the question, and then when the user answers the question, you can just resume the video. So technically it is possible. It is not very complicated. I don't know if I'm very sure there will be authoring tools which can do these kind of stuff. And yeah, anyway, we just want to be able to support those scenarios. If we are able to create some examples, it would be great. But if we cannot, we are not required to do that as part of this work.
Is this something that you plan to present as part of the right before the boot camp kicks off in Alexandria? Is this what the work that we do here? Would that be part of that presentation that day?
I'm not sure. We would need to check with ADL. If we are able to build something, I guess we would be able to present. But
yeah, so I should probably
be most.
Sorry, guys, I should probably jump in here. So that's definitely a possibility if you're able to what's the term? If you're able to see I'm sorry, let me start again. Yeah, if you have something built by that time, we'll have 2 days. One will be workshops, and the second day is set for presentations associated with the design cohort. But we were thinking of having time available for people who've been working on things within communities of practice to have a chance to talk about the work they've been doing. So that is definitely a possibility.
Okay, yeah, because this use case that we were just talking about seems pretty interesting. There's another IBM. I was telling them that there's another IBM product that I saw where if you watched a video, you would see comments that people had left, but
Right.
the comments were tied in to the timeline, so
Yeah.
you would see them at the time of where they put it in the video. And so we were kind of thinking the same thing, but to focus it on test questions, right? You would, when you get to that part of the video, the question would display, and then you would answer the question, and then go on.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, that would definitely be something that would be of interest.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry, was that Adam?
It wasn't.
Oh, okay.
I think it was.
No, that was Craig. I jumped back in for a moment.
Okay.
Before, I'm sorry, I'm right.
No, I thought Adam had said something.
Oh, okay.
Okay, cool. Okay. Well, what do you guys think then on?
Well, on the this kind of point to the in-video actions, I think one of the problems here is what's standard and what's common versus what might be a kind of a value add of each individual authoring tool.
So I think we're a little premature as figuring out, what kind of tool or whatever would be able to do this, but I know I can think of two that can do it. Captivate and then the Storyline would certainly be able to do something like this, and then also some kind of, custom-built JavaScript would definitely be able to do this as well. The only downside that I can see from this is that tool may or may not be mobile friendly at that point. Surely at some point in the future, all those tools will become mobile friendly, but at this point, most of those kind of ones that I've seen or have experience with are all Flash based. Right. And I don't know that that's necessarily a bad thing. It's just kind of the way it's been written in the past, just because that's the most common thing. Now, I know YouTube, that'll certainly change, and YouTube has switched everything to MP4 at this point, so they're completely mobile friendly. And I think they also switched to HTML5, and so they're doing tracking, and I'm sure they're doing some kind of JavaScript.
Yeah.
But
yeah, we would want to be able to test what features work on what platforms, but I guess this can be done in YouTube as well as HTML5 based players on mobile. But again, we would want to be able to test and specify where it works. So that is already mentioned in this goals and objectives that we have. We want to be able to identify what features are supported on different popular services and platforms as well.
Yep.
So we want to be able to test all the features that we are mentioning, not specifically the comments and annotations.
Could you say that last part one more time? I wasn't sure what you were.
If you check the goals and objectives that we have mentioned, I think on page 3.
So this is objectives, goals and objectives number 4.
Identify applicable interactions, existing platform, features, okay.
we want to be able to all the features that we are standardizing as part of this community of practice, and mention which features or which events can be tracked on different services or different platforms. Like everything might not be supported on Vimeo, everything might not be supported on YouTube. Some things might work on HTML5 and some might not work on HTML5 versus other platforms.
So I just kind of had a thought. So this is kind of what it looks like to me in my head anyway. I could be, let me just draw a real quick thing here. Where's my box? There we go. So if I have a page, we have some kind of embedded video right here, right? And so if we, let's see, here. Where's my pen tool? Pen, my pen. Anyway, I guess if we just had a, say the video is running in here, right? And then down here, you could have, you know, I don't know, question 1. And then let's just try to duplicate this here. We can move duplicate up here. Anyway, and then question 2. And so I guess these could be just div tags, right? And then this could appear and then disappear, depending on the time that's within the video. And so this one would appear, say, at this time, and then this one would appear, say, like 30 seconds in or whatever. So this would be like question 1, 20 seconds in. And this will be, I don't know, 45 seconds in, right? Okay, so then as part of that, just theoretically, if we were doing something like this, right? When the video, somehow the video would start a timer, right? And we would be able to interact with that video using JavaScript, I'm assuming, to trigger the showing of this question here. And then this one would be, would be starting off disappeared, right? You wouldn't be able to see it. So I would just say appear after 20 seconds. So that would interact there. The next JavaScript event would kind of just stop the video until they've answered the question, and then it would restart the video once they answered. And there's a W in there. Sure.
It will pause the video, show the question, and then play the video.
Right. So as soon as they answer, it'll trigger an event that restarts the video. And I'm wondering, so I kind of see this as split into 2 different sections, right? So we have the kind of the generic placeholder up here, and then there's the kind of the logic or whatever. And so this could be maybe formed in a kind of as like a wrapper. This could be all just wrapper information, and so this maybe this could be generic, right? So this could be like, say, YouTube, Kaltura, MP3, Flash. And like I said, I'm just tossing stuff out here. I'm just brainstorming. The way to
The UI can be whatever the authoring tool wants it to be. It could just black out the entire video section and so
okay.
there, or so it
Yeah,
depends on the
so,
way it wants to do.
you know, it's a great point. So maybe just do what do they call that? Shadow box, right? So the shadow box video when question appears. And I guess you could shadow box the question on top of the video as well, right? So you can kind of do something like
Still there? I've lost my audio.
I think I don't know. I think his video, the audio is gone.
Yeah, I can hear you, but I think Patrick's audio disappeared.
Yeah.
It's almost surreal, isn't it? This communicating via a Google Doc via a video feed.
Yeah. So, Adam, do you think we could add more stuff here?
Yeah, sure. If I spend some time thinking more carefully, it will even be more easy to understand. So yes, that would be a useful thing to do, I think, is to spend some time trying to clarify what the different cases are. Although it's difficult to draw boundaries, I think. So looking at some of the main use cases, clearly there are a variety of things there, some of which are leading towards more analytical things and others more operational, and there's no easy way often, I think, to purely separate those out. So they're almost it's almost like there's different different perspectives on the same use case depending on where you describe it from kind of a learner's point of view, what their use case is, from someone who may be more of a designer and what their use case is, and someone who maybe is analysing it, and different perspectives on what's essentially the same use case. Is that Patrick back?
yeah, I'm back. I'm sorry about that. I dropped the call.
We heard this bleep and wondered what's happening.
Yeah, we have reliable phone networks here in the U.S., so sometimes we just drop for apparently no reason at all. So sorry about that. I'm trying. So I think I just had another thought too. So if we decide to go this route, maybe some kind of reporting interface would be kind of built into this as well. We can kind of see, the xAPI statements come back from each of these questions, as well as maybe the question text, and then kind of do the reporting on that part of it.
Yeah, so the video, each interaction with the video would go into the LRS as a statement, and answers to these questions will go to the LRS as a statement, and then there could be reporting based on the need or based on what we think could be useful out of it. So if there is anything we can think of right now as a possible report we could build, we could add it as a comment there in the use case as well as in the reports and analytics section, and then we could think of if we can get enough data in and be able to get out the report.
You know, it would be pretty cool. I use a reporting interface for assessments, and what it'll do is it'll actually tell you there's like a stacked bar graph right next to each question, and it will show you how many people answered which question or which answer they chose as part of the interface. Trying to think of a good example what it would look like. So like, I don't know, it just says like this. So it's like 15% chose A, 75% chose B, and I don't know, whatever the math works out to be, 10% chose C. And then that could appear directly next to where it says question 1. And then this could be, and then this would be color coded. So this would be the correct answer here, and maybe that would be color coded green, and then this would be both incorrect. So it would be red, I guess. And so from a reporting perspective, it gives you pretty much a great idea, a great view right away as to how that performance on that one question is doing, and whether or not, I guess the only thing it doesn't answer your, it doesn't give you a total good distribution curve because you don't really know the total numbers, but I guess you could include that, right? Total is 12 people that answered or whatever.
Or you could even go further and do some classical test theory analysis and get an indicator of where the question's good at separating high-performing versus low-performing students or candidates.
Exactly. Yep.
And that could come out to be a fairly simple indicator, although the quantity that classical test theory people would have, you might scratch your head about and go, what's this alpha or beta? But you could summarize that in a much more kind of intuitive way, in a relative way.
You could totally do some type of split testing or something on there if you wanted to create a couple versions of it. That's what I think on the reporting side would look pretty good.
The more useful reports would be towards the admin end, where you'd be able to analyze the quality of video and things like that. So they would not be part of this view, but it would be on the admin side where, based on the results or answers, you could know if users are doing good or if video is doing good.
Maybe make that a different color, don't I? Yeah, something like that. Oh, here it is. Got bumped down to the next page here. Yeah, so what do you guys think? We'll build something like this? I mean, it'd be pretty interesting. I think I was really, when I saw that IBM one in action, it was really neat, because you would see the text kind of just like popping up as you were watching it, and so it added a lot of I thought it added a lot of value. I mean, there was clearly stupid statements as well that were in there, so that didn't really add a lot of value, but most of them were insightful, right? Like, you know, like, I don't know what people were saying. They were just saying, well, this part was of particular value to me because this is something that I encounter in my job every day. So I thought that was pretty neat.
Yeah, I mean, you could build in voting features if you wanted to systematically kind of weed out rubbish.
Oh yeah, kind of do an upvote, downvote kind of thing. This comment is useful to me, kind of thing. Sure.
Actually, I really like that idea. I'd like to.
I think what this discussion is also raising to me is that, yeah, if we look very atomistically at kind of, you know, the video as being one thing, life's fairly easy. But actually, frequently, we're going to want to start to weave in things like, you know, annotation and comments, and
Right.
question answering, or even videos within assessment questions. And then I guess we're faced with a kind of not a philosophical question, but a kind of a principle question: is are these two activities that are being coordinated, you know, the answering questions and the watching video, or is it one activity which is a compound thing? And depending on which way you go between those two options, does the way you would create your statements differ? And then if someone else comes to this data later on and tries to look at it and interpret it or integrate with it somehow, how do they know what it means? You know, whether it was coordinated or whatever.
Right.
And
the way
so that's kind of the inevitable tricky question, isn't it? If we're seeking something which is, yeah, to what extent do we want this to be interoperable across people's minds in a way, and their mindsets, or, you know, in some cases, I might say, you know, actually it's good enough that we have this thing called LRS that people can use to build stuff on fairly quickly, and we're not too worried about using the data by anybody else. But sometimes we are. And therefore we need to work out which bits we want to model carefully that we can have them interoperable, and which bits we say, well, you know, kind of you're on your own here, there's a place to do this, but you do this bit in a standardized way, and then the rest of the stuff you can do in your own way because that's your value add. So I think this exploring how we might have these kind of composite activity things expressed is an interesting kind of test case of how we think about it.
Go ahead.
Yeah, as part of this effort, we are not trying to standardize the UI. So the UI can be anything. The way people want to build their content can be anything. What we are trying to do is we are trying to specify how the data should be stored in the LRS, what verbs should be used, and the way they should be stored, so that reporting can be done from content built by different tools. It could be Captivate, it could be Articulate, it could be JavaScript code, and if they all send same verbs, same data, same type of data, we could build reports which can be meaningful across different content. So the UI will not be what this image shows, but the data sent by it will be standard across different authoring tools.
Yep.
And that's kind of one thing I was thinking. Yeah, if the content itself, the video content, could be agnostic to this wrapper thing, you know, maybe they could plug into either YouTube or Flash, right? It doesn't really care what the content is, and so there's a layer of abstraction between it, right? And I'm just pointing on the screen here, but like, here's the content, the wrapper, and then it's actually communicating with the main body, which is the actual assessment tool itself, who then actually makes the reports down to the LRS here. This is not very clear. Let's see, like this kind of.
One more thing we could do is we could track the time it takes from when the question is displayed and when the user answers the question. So let's say if you show a question, pause the video and show a question, and if the user doesn't answer it for maybe 5 minutes or 10 minutes, you'd know that the user is not actually viewing the video. Or he just played the video and he went away, maybe watching a football match.
Yeah, that's yeah. Maybe the question is only good for less than a minute, right? You put a timer on it and say, you know, you have to complete this within X amount of time. One other thing too, the upvote and downvote piece on the comments, assuming there is comments, but it makes me think of the whole gamification aspect of learning. And so perhaps there could be, like, you know, some points or something, like a point system depending on how many questions you answered, and that's really what the upvote downvote thing is, right? Like, I'm interacting with the question or the comments. Maybe there's a way for the student to interact with the question as well.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I'm wondering though. Well, I mean, I think this is sort of a learning design thing, but I wonder, because in this case you're interacting with you're sort of evaluating the utility of the video, I would imagine, with an upvote or a downvote, right? Like I'm thinking in terms of, say, Reddit, where, you know, you can comment on something, but, you know, as a response to something that's been posted or put up, but really the simplest thing is to say, you know, say this was useful or this wasn't useful, you know, through upvote or downvote. So I wonder if gamifying that would sort of, it would incentivize people to interact with the content, but I wonder if you'd be getting, you know, useful interactions, I guess, that way.
Well, and especially when you're assessing someone, right? It's kind of a different ball game than gamification, right? Where one is you're just trying to have fun while learning, and this one is we're actually assessing if they know anything and learned anything within the video. I don't know. I think let's table that for right now, and, you know, push that off into the future. I haven't really done a whole lot of gamification, so I can't really speak too much about it, other than, like you said, with the example with Reddit, where you're voting up, down, and then you have karma points, of course. That's
right.
Thing that's
right.
Well, how is your link karma anyway? Are you doing pretty good, or?
I'm all right. You know, I mean, I'm a moderator for the e-learning subreddit, so it's okay. Yeah.
Oh, you are? Okay, cool.
Yeah. It's not too much, but yeah, I know. It's casually making its way into the conversation. It's like, oh, so how are you doing Reddit? Yeah, so it's all right. I don't put too much stock, honestly, in link karma. Comment karma is really where it's at, just because, you know.
It's meaningful. Yeah.
It's meaningful, exactly.
Right. Cool. All right. Well, so I don't know. Is this a worthwhile avenue to pursue, something like this?
Well, I don't know if I should be commenting, but I think so. But of course, I'm you know, speaking from the point of view of someone who wants to see something like this happen. So.
Well, and so knowing what you know, how does this kind of fit into the greater scheme of the entire xAPI universe? Is this like kind of a logical, you know, offshoot of existing work or whatever?
Yeah, I think so.
Direction?
I think so. I think this is getting closer to showing a how you would work with the kind of content that people often come into contact with and useful ways in which to employ xAPI to understand things about the use of that content. So, yeah, I think this would be a really good example. You know, in the context of the community of practice, or even outside, even just as an example of what xAPI can accomplish. Now, I want to kind of follow up on something that Adam said, though. I think that or maybe my interpretation of what he said, but I think that this would be interesting in, say, if you were participating in a MOOC, for example, and part of that MOOC were pre-recorded videos, right? That you had where the feedback given or the data, the learning data taken from people's interactions with that video could be factored into or be reviewed by someone before a synchronous meeting, say once a week or once a month, so that the person doing the administration would have a sense of how people interacted with the content prior to that conversation, and then use that to shape the conversation. So, yeah, that could be really interesting.
Yep.
I did attend one MOOC that did have videos and then questions embedded within the video itself, and I thought that was rather interesting. But I'm pretty sure they were not tracking it or anything. It certainly wasn't reporting back.
Right. I'm sure they were just. I'm sure it was just kind of a
knowledge check.
Yeah. Right. Right.
Yep. So let's see, Adam, would you be interested in working with something like this as far as kind of the reporting side? I know that's sort of your sweet spot right there.
It is. The unsweet spot is I'm reasonably chock with work until, or indeed travelling or holiday until the middle of April.
Right.
So I'm also slightly involved in one of the design groups. But yeah, I mean, my heart's in the right place to get involved with some of this kind of stuff, and I think it would be good to, if possible, try to get something where we're maybe capturing realistic activity at a reasonable level of scale, where we can start to look at some of the statements themselves and understand where the strengths and weaknesses are from that perspective. I think then you start to have a look and try to interpret and understand, and you go, oh, actually we haven't got this piece of information that we really need, and that then makes you go back to the drawing board again and think about design, technical design, and what data you're capturing and how you express it. So I think kind of going around that cycle, of designing things, seeing what data you get, and then what you're going to do with that. Going a few times around that cycle is quite a useful thing to do to really hone the data that we need to be capturing.
That is exactly what we want to do. We want to see the use cases, see what we need, and then make sure we have that data in the LRS.
Yep.
And
based on the.
Go ahead. No, I was just going to say, I mean, how would that work for you? Would this fit in with kind of the goals and things that you were thinking about from this project?
Was that question for me?
I was just wondering how you felt about this. I mean, is this something that is interesting to you? Is this what you were thinking of when you kind of started up the video COP?
Video COP is not a design cohort project, so it is slightly different from a project in itself. We can build some examples like you mentioned, but in the end we want to be able to standardize the data that is going to the LRS. So this can be a part of project that we do, or some of the people in this group does, but there is a greater objective that we want to be able track each different information in a standard way. And that is the key thing we want to achieve.
So I guess I misunderstood the scope of the COP. So really, we're looking to just standardize the verbs, right? So we're really not looking to build anything.
We could build some things to be able to showcase or to be able to prototype what we are trying to achieve, but the real objective is to standardize the verb and create the vocabulary that we want to use, or we want everyone to use.
Yeah, the communities of practice were created, or at least the idea behind the communities of practice were to primarily to work, as Pankaj says, to establish a suitable controlled vocabulary. That's one of the goals of the community of practice. But the general goal is to talk about best practices for whatever domain is being focused on in that domain. So if building something is in service to establishing those best practices or recommending best practices, which I think what we've been talking about qualifies, then obviously that's not out of bounds. Of course, when I say that, nothing is really out of bounds per se. This is really the communities of practice, what you make of them. But I would say above all, establishing best practices and work in service of that, working on a controlled vocabulary is what we had envisioned when we talked about doing that.
Okay. So doing kind of a mock-up or whatever wouldn't be out of bounds. It's just
no, I don't think so at all. Yeah, and again, I don't want to influence all of you too much with our vision of what we wanted to see. I think we want this to be what you think is necessary to further people's adoption, further the ease of adoption of xAPI within a particular domain. And when speaking of video, I think this is something a lot of people can get behind because they're using it. And I think the kind of project that you were talking about would go a long way towards helping people understand how video could be used using xAPI or used.
A good demo really helps.
Yeah,
basically. Around what you're talking about. So a recipe of some kind, some verbs, and a demo, and you go, oh, I can see what's going on.
Right.
I can see it using these. I can go and look at the logs, kind of live logging of the statements.
Yep.
And it all makes sense.
Exactly.
Okay. Good. Okay. Craig, would you speak a little bit about, there was a document that came out from IEEE, I think it was last week, early last week. I don't know if you read that one. But in it basically, I remember one of the criticisms of the xAPI efforts was that there was little formalization around the verbs and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I didn't read the document, but I've been I've been hearing some of the conversation around the document. Yeah, I mean, from our point of view, and this is me, maybe I shouldn't be speaking for ADL in this way, but my understanding of the reasoning is as follows. There originally, had been some discussion about, kind of formalizing and, the use of verbs, but as was covered in a document that Jason Haig released, I think last week, I think it was the vocabulary considerations for the Experience API, that kind of thing was left open on purpose, so that people working could define what those things were. And so the community or communities could themselves kind of make decisions based on what they wanted to do or what they needed to do. Now, in the long term, obviously that makes it a little, or not long term, in the short term, it makes it a little difficult in the sense that, there's not one universal controlled vocabulary for use within xAPI.
Well, and I guess, yeah, that was their biggest criticism, but then I realized too, I mean, IEEE, they are kind of persnickety over there. So
that's kind of, that's kind of their job.
Right.
There's a reason it takes like three. Oh, go ahead.
It's a two-edged sword there. I mean,
Yeah.
so I think one of the liberations in not specifying the vocabulary is it lets people do what they want without contaminating things too much.
Right.
So if you define a vocabulary and you anticipate too much, or you do a classic thing where you don't have very strong and semantically rich definitions, people interpret it the way they want to anyway. So you have the appearance that people are using vocabulary, but actually their interpretation and reality is very different because they shoehorn what they're doing in their app into the vocabulary that you've defined.
Right.
So you have the appearance of people using it in a consistent way, but actually they're not.
Yeah.
So in some ways, not defining it lets people get on with it, and there are lots of implementations of Experience API out there.
Yeah, there was an implementation that I learned about recently that where they were I can't remember who it was, but they were dealing with a particular problem of how groups interact with each other within simulations, and the verbs that they were using were not ones, I guess the terms or verbs they were using to describe those interactions were not ones that I don't think have been agreed upon anywhere or been seen, but for what they were doing, it worked, So I think you're right, Adam. That's one of them.
And that's probably better than people trying to reuse, actually misusing things that are already defined in a way.
Yeah, good. Yeah, exactly.
But it is a two-edged sword because actually, once we've gone beyond the point of people using linear record stores essentially to build their own applications, and we start to want to use it more for doing analytics across different applications in colleges and universities, which is my kind of area where it's quite a variety of applications there across different departments, and it's pretty mad, really, Wild West kind of stuff. Then people say, actually, no, we really could do with some fixed vocabularies here. So I think the time is right for focus on these communities of practice to try to nail some things down. And it probably is nailing the relatively boring stuff down, where we can, for example, video in a sense is fairly boring because we can go and look at the various players, we can see what Vimeo does and YouTube does, and we can get the latest Adobe things and look for the common ground between them all, and we can say, no, here's the common ground, and we can make some progress. But it is now, I think, time to do that.
Yeah.
And it is kind of a fair criticism that, okay, Experience API doesn't do these things. So I think it's difficult in a way to strike the right balance. I think if you'd gone too soon into defining vocabularies, it would have hurt things. If you wait too long, it will hurt things, and someone else will come out with their vocabularies.
Yeah.
And I guess so. There's a strategic thing here between IMS and ADL who don't necessarily get on.
Yeah, that is a drawback.
Both camps. So I think between IMS trying to progress with metric profiles to define some of these things. It doesn't mean they'll get the answer right. Because they're not being done in a kind of an open community way. So there's an opportunity to do that definition in a collaborative way with the community if you can get people to engage and to get a quality result.
Yeah. I was on the
soapbox there.
on the specification meeting they do once a month, talk about the spec and what's next and that kind of thing. And I think one of their biggest fears was there's no central repository for verbs, and so people may end up using the same one in different areas, but the meanings would end up being slightly different and maybe perhaps not well defined, and so you would end up with this sense of collisions between verbs that maybe sound the same but maybe don't always mean exactly the same thing.
Indeed.
But from my
labels as well. I think that there's one of the things I've seen quite a lot over the years is developers often tend to assume a label is sufficient with a very, very brief definition, so you can get assumptions made about what a label means. A single word or two words in a URI for a verb. People assume they know what it means. I don't think the world is very varied in how we interpret words, not just between different cultures, between different sectors, between different industries. So good definitions, and I think you're right, having a repository, being able to discover and pool together what people are doing and make it more visible is a useful thing.
Well, and multiple versions of English, just that alone can be confusing at times, depending
Even within
on the language.
one country.
On the team link though, we find it quite liberating there that we could just make up whatever. We could just pull them straight out of thin air. It's like, and when you look at the list of standard ones, they get kind of kludgy, right? Depending on what you're doing. Like we were looking to track some things out of SharePoint. Say you're contributing to a forum or participating in a forum, then kind of the sort of the standard verbs, you're not really experiencing it, right? That's a kind of the wrong word. You're contributing, or you're adding to the conversation. You're doing other things than that. And we haven't figured out what those all are, but we know that the ones that are out there will be kind of out of place as to what. So we're just going to make up our own, right, and just go keep going.
Have you looked at this? It's written SIOC, SIOC, but it's usually pronounced SHOC. Semantically interlinked online communities. It's an RDF vocabulary for intended to be used for a variety of these kind of forums and for live chat and for contribution to wikis.
Oh, I have not. No, that would be very interesting. What was it called again?
SIOC. If you Google SIOC.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
I mean, the spec itself is quite. I mean, it's hardcore. Semantic Web people wrote it, but I think there's some. So, you need to take it with a bit of a pinch of salt. That is my kind of general experience.
I've met some of those guys. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they're obviously kind of very smart, build architectures in their heads, but I think my view is that you have a look and you see what you can take away from some of these things. It says the site is currently offline due to technical problems.
Gotcha.
Hey, Patrick, I've gone ahead and put a couple links in the chat window there.
All right, perfect. Thank you. I'll check those out.
Mm-hmm.
There it is. Okay. Cool. Well, I guess we came right around full circle then. So I don't know. For me, I think the sort of that mock-up drawing or whatever that we did, and this sort of particular use case would be something I'd be interested in moving forward. If you guys agree, I think maybe one of the next activities that we probably should focus on is taking the existing use case templates here and perhaps filling out those two use cases that we've identified. One for the kind of the learner side, and then the additional one for the reporting side. I don't know if this works for you guys. That would certainly work for me, though.
Yep, I think so. I need to shoot off seconds away.
Well, thank you so much for joining.
I'll contribute on the forum or on the document if I get a chance, and watch out for when the next call is going to be.
Okay,
that
would be great.
Cheerio.
All right,
Are
thank
you
you.
on the Google, Adam?
Sorry, come again, sorry?
Are you on the Google group?
Is there a specific one for the video community practice?
There is. I'll go ahead and throw it into the into the chat window so you guys have it if you don't already. Let's see.
And I was one other thing I just wanted to mention quick. I know you need to run, but there's this Google Communities page that I set up for the Team Gnome. It seems to be rather good. Would you guys be interested in setting something like that up for the video one too?
Yeah, I think it can be useful. So yeah, I'll take a look.
Okay. Yeah, let me know how you guys feel about that. It only takes a couple minutes to set up, so it's not a big deal either way.
Yeah, let me see if I can look in for that as well. Let's see, Team xAPI, no.
But if the Google Groups is enough, then we can continue just using that there.
Yeah, I'm in the group. I'm going to hang up now, guys. I'll talk to you anon.
All right, thanks.
All right, thanks.
Bye.
Okay.
currently the general information document does that the Google community page or Group 9 is doing.
Could you say again, Benkei?
Currently, the general information document that we are working on is kind of organizing all the information together.
Yep.
Kind of the same thing community space is doing. So, but yeah, if we create a Google communities page, it can be useful. Currently, we don't have too much information or too many mock-ups that we can post there. So,
well, and that was nice about the communities. You can post, images and post images and stuff like that. I found it more useful than I thought I was going to. So it seems like a good place for.
Yeah, it is really good.
Okay, so I'll set one of those up then. Cool. So what do you think? Should we go ahead and work on that meet again, I guess? I know it's 4 o'clock now, so we can meet later on to work on that use case document. Would it be a good next step?
Yeah, if we can create more mock-ups or verify the other use cases, just like we did for assessment, it can be useful.
Okay, cool. So do you want to, when is our next meeting? I think it's next month, right?
Yeah, it's on April 7th.
Okay. Would we want to meet before then to work on that? I don't know how much time we have with this. If we run out of, is there a cutoff date for this, what we're doing right now, or no?
The general meetings are once in a month. If you want, and schedule some extra meetings.
Yeah, if you guys are going to take on this new, what you've been talking about today, it sounds like you'd want to step up some sort of synchronous meeting before the monthly meeting. That said, there's no deadline, obviously, on it outside of when you wanted to, share this with people. So.
Well, I mean, I would love to present this as part of our during the boot camp as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you definitely want to do that, then, well, obviously, yes, there's a deadline. I'll leave you guys to that to figure out when you want to do that. But yeah, I mean, I would imagine. I think the next meeting, when is it? I mean, it's the first Tuesday of every month, I think. So currently, I think the next one is also the 3rd of April, if I remember correctly.
7th April.
I hate to try to pin you down again, but do you know when that boot camp thing is gonna launch?
Well, we don't have it set, but it's not, the boot camp itself is not going to happen until late June, I would say. Late June, probably July.
July, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, July is more likely it. We're trying to steer clear of other conferences that are going on, plus holidays and things like that. So.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
And we don't know what state it's going to be.
Oh no, that I can tell you pretty simply. Last year it was in Orlando, Florida. This year it will very likely be in Alexandria, Virginia, right outside of Washington D.C.
Gotcha. Yeah. All right. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It'll be.
I heard.
It'll be right where I'm sitting. In fact, I'm in the Alexandria, Virginia office. So.
Oh, okay. Cool.
That'll be easy for me. That's essentially why I heard that way.
I heard there was a rumor that it was going to be in Alexandria, so
yeah, I started that.
I'm glad that you confirmed it.
Yeah, I'm the one who started that rumor, so yeah, no problem.
Okay, perfect. All right, cool.
I was trying to make it come true just by gossip.
Gotcha.
I heard that next year it will be in Nepal.
What's that?
I heard that next year it will be in Nepal.
Yes, exactly. Pankaj, if you can make that,
Oh,
if you can make that happen, I'll totally go along with it.
that'll be nice. I'll show up for sure.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Actually, honestly, with as much work as Jesse and the group in Taiwan has been doing, we should just do one in Taipei. But I don't know if we're gonna get that. I don't know if we're gonna get that clear as well. Honestly though, if you'll hear no arguments from me if we take this on the road, obviously. But
And and how's that 7 a.m. call going? You getting a lot of like UK people?
yeah, it's going okay. It's actually there aren't as many people on the call as I'd like, given the requests that I got from the crowd to do it. That being said, I'm going to continue to do that. I'm going to continue to do the call, just in case people need it in the morning, through the end of the design cohort. And to be honest, I'm probably going to offer it in the next design cohort when I do it again. Just because I want to make sure that people who can't make it for the later meeting don't miss out if they want to report, if they want to discuss things that happened in a previous session or whatever. So,
Right.
but right now I'd say the 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time one is the one where everything happens. It's the one where we have everyone's there to do their updates. It's the one where we have people available to do standout presentations of where their group is right now. It's the one where Tyler has been doing some tutorials. Tyler Mulligan, another one of my colleagues here at ADL, has been doing tutorials on working with xAPI tools like the statement viewer and the labs and the learning record store. So, yeah.
I remember I met Tyler at the Plug Fest.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, he'll be well. I mean, we're all in this office right now, so
Okay.
he'll be here for the this year's Plug Fest as well.
Okay. So let's schedule something a little bit sooner. Pankaj, do you want to set something up for what's today? Maybe next week we can meet.
Maybe we two can meet up once and then plan things.
That actually might be a good idea, and then plan things and call, see if you need to meet again before the monthly meeting, just to get things kind of off the ground.
Yeah, just kind of get things done up here. I did add the use case templates to the document, so what we can do is just plan on maybe updating those, and then we'll just move forward from there, I think.
Now, if you can add one or two use cases related to video, it will be easier for others to add more.
Okay. Yeah, I mean we can add as many as we want.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So let's do that. All right. I'll look out for your email then. Whatever's good for you is good for me as well. I'm pretty open, and if I'm not, I'll just let you know.
Okay. Sure. Okay then.
All right, guys.
Cool. Well, thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you guys. A lot happened in this meeting. So, I'll go ahead and post the recording of this, Pankaj, and I'll share it with both of you once I get it onto my Google Drive, and you can pull it down from there if you like.
Perfect. And I will post it on our new Google community page, so you'll be able to see it there as well.
Cool. All right, guys. Thanks a lot.
Excellent. All right. Have a great day.
You too.
Catch you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.